Bitcoin was at 68, 69,000. And I'm like, all right, the charts are telling me this thing's topping out. So first of all, I absolutely agree with that in that if everyone's calling for something, it's not going to be right there. But the question is like what they could end up doing and what I could see them doing is, and by the way, it's not just the market makers, because let's be clear, the market makers play a role, but they can't control the masses in total. Like if everyone's panicking, the market makers just step the heck back and like let the thing collapse, because they can't, at some point they run out of money too. They may have a lot more than all of us, but they do have a limit to what they can lose. So what I would say is that the question is does it come shy of that level and then start going up? Or the more likely scenario is you get everyone to buy in around 12, 13, right? And then they take it down to max pain. Let's say they take it down to 5. And then all those people that bought at 12, 13 are like panicking that they think Bitcoin's going to be 0, and they dump, and then that's the bottom. So I'm more in the camp that that's the case because of the similarities to the .com era and noticing what Amazon did during that period, being the behemoth that it is today, and I kind of equate Bitcoin with an Amazon monster kind of in that respect. So I'm more in that camp that they'll lure as many people in as they can, and then flush it as much as they can to get people to panic and dump, and then they'll be right there with their bags just accumulating everything they can. Yeah, I mean, so there's no doubt about it that you know, it does affect you on some level. I think as you become further involved in it, you start to kind of put it in its place. Like I always view it like you have 9 out of every 10 people are going to love you, but there's always trolls out there that are going to attack you. It doesn't matter what you do. They're going to say, oh, you said Bitcoin was going to go to 20,000. It went to 19,999. You were wrong, right? I mean, so that's always going to be the case. And I think the biggest thing is to use it now. And this is how I'm actually using it. It's like when I tweet sometimes on purpose to see the reaction. So like, let's say I'll be bullish or I'll be bearish on something. Excuse me. I want to gauge the response of the crowd, and then I use that in my trading factors. So for instance, if I see a lot of people attacking me, so the greatest example was when Bitcoin was at 68, 69,000, and I'm like, all right, the charts are telling me this thing's topping out. And everyone was like, Gareth, you're an idiot. You're like, like every name in the book you could imagine. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going to be right. This makes me more confident now that I'm going to be right, because I know the retail crowd is generally always wrong. So when they're all against me, the obvious result is going to be that I'm going to be right. So I think that's how you have to handle it. And like the greatest thing is, and you're a great guy, Frankie, and you probably have this too. You have a lot of fans, and I've now what I'm seeing is there'll be a troll that says something about me, and then like I'll have like this army just telling them that they're idiots, and I'm like, dude, this is like, I love you guys. This is the best thing in the world. You know, it's like because listen, you have like so many people that are so intelligent that understand what you're saying, but then there's always those people that don't. But the intelligent people will stick up for you, and which is a great thing in life in general. You know, bullies, they need to go away, right? We all have to just get rid of those trolls. They have no place in this world, in my opinion, and I think that's really the end of it. And those are the same people, by the way, that like they're smart enough to not go all in on that trade too, right? They're smart enough to say, hey, listen, I understand probabilities, I understand statistics, and therefore I'm going to allocate this amount of my assets to this trading opportunity. Versus the trolls are the ones that have, by the way, the trolls are the ones usually that have $1,000, but then they'll bet it all on one thing, and then they'll lose it, and then they'll be the worst haters in the world, right? I mean, it's just it's this pervasiveness to it. So again, I think the bottom line is that, like you said, we point out things. I love teaching. Teaching is very rewarding. I love the comments that I get about teaching, because it tells you that you're actually making a difference in people's lives. But part of teaching is making it so people think for themselves, and then they need to go do that analysis and either confirm or disagree. And disagreeing is fine. Then they just, skip the trade. But like you and I, we put that information out there, which, by the way, takes guts. Like you're putting yourself on the line. Every time you say, hey, listen, I think you're going to bounce here or you're going to pull back here, you're putting yourself on the line, which, by the way, none of the trolls ever will do. They'll never make that. So, I mean, it's, You do a great service, man, and I think it's so important to kind of just keep focused on the positives and try to just ignore those negatives or use them to motivate, right? I think that's been one of the biggest things in my trading career is that I had people that told me I couldn't do it. I had people that said, oh, you're not going to become a pro. It's too hard. You're not going to make lots of money. You're not going to do this. And I always take that. I'm like, oh yeah, watch me prove you wrong, you know, and that's figure out how to motivate yourself into just proving those people wrong. Like they're taking their life and they're wasting this percentage of their life to actually say something, and it's like, dude, really? Like you could have spent that time actually doing something productive for your life to make your life better, but instead you chose to do this, you know, like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's definitely a positive, and I think that's part of your mentality that you're changing that around. And I think that's awesome because you're coming from a certain point to be able to do that. And I do think that's true, is like, you know, generally bullies in that they have something that's hurting within them. And so, you know, you're right. You got to figure out how to make it better, and hopefully it does get better for them. I do, as a trader, I do trade like Solana, Avalanche, Polygon, you know, different ones like that, Cardano. In terms of what I'm looking to hold longer term, my confidence is really only with Bitcoin and Ethereum, because those I feel have established themselves in this day and age as long lasting. You know, if you look back at 2 years ago, what the top group of cryptos were, a lot of them aren't in that top group anymore. And that's my concern about the longer term investing side. But yeah, I generally will trade the top 20 at least. Yeah, right now it's just Bitcoin and Ethereum. In fact, I don't have any Ethereum long-term yet. I have a little bit of Bitcoin, which is long-term, but I do, you know, that's subject to change. Just like we were talking about, it's like if I start to see a different coin that's starting to establish itself and getting bigger and more adoption by institutions, and I really view it as that, right? I mean, the ones the institutions are, they're not going to invest in something that's going to be gone in 2 years. So if they're putting billions in or whatever, then that's something I'll pay attention to. But right now, we're really not seeing that with anything but Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's really trading at its recent highs. So my guess is it'll be slightly more dovish than the market fears. It's still going to be hawkish. I still think 25 to 50 basis points in September, they're going to hike. But I think the market's worried that it's going to be more aggressive than that. So I'm kind of leaning towards just slightly dovish. That could give us that one push up in crypto or in Bitcoin before we see that next leg down that could start in September. Litecoin. Yeah, so Litecoin, you know, I used to, you know, a while back, I used to trade Litecoin a little bit more. As it's kind of fallen back a little bit, I haven't been as interested. And I also think that Litecoin tracks Bitcoin very, very closely, which is one of those reasons why it's like, okay, well, maybe I should just play. You know, I guess it's a little bit more volatile, so you get a little bit better bang for your buck. But if we look at the Litecoin chart, it's very much like, you know, you have this trend line here that we're just holding. You got this little mini micro bullish pattern here, this little up move and sideways. So maybe we can get one little pop here, but I don't think that there's like, you know, again, it's hard for me now to kind of see how much upside we could have in crypto. And you can kind of see that you have this channel right here. So short term, I kind of think the same thing as with Bitcoin. You might get some sort of relief pop, but then again, my guess is you don't get above this area up here before the next leg kind of takes it to the downside.